Welcome to Ngosti Talk Shows. Lead from within.
Find your own voice.
Challenges we have had to overcome in 2020.
Find your own voice.
The world has become united by the unseen, knowing there are no guarantees for tomorrow.
Lead from within.
Find your own voice.
Let the world hear your voice and be filled within.
For the day has come for you to be a great leader.
The time has come to break away from the pain, distraction, experience the unthinkable.
Find your own voice. Lead from within. Welcome to Ngosti Talk Show. Over to you, Amanda. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
My name is Amanda Cottrell. I'm coming to you from Canada, and it is beautiful and hot here today, which is so fantastic. I'm a teacher, I am a children's author, and my mission is to empower people through their own unique creative capacities.
So much. Thank you so much, Amanda. Over to you, Carol Ann. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Good afternoon, from London, UK, and as the writing facilitator, what I do is I support soul-driven entrepreneurs in becoming more productive with their writing by connecting them with their deeper innate ability to write. But more importantly, they experience free-flowing writing. They experience an unlocking of the writer within and getting their book written, getting their story written, because you cannot publish what isn't written. And all of this has come about through my own journey of unlocking the writer within. So I'm Carol Ann, the writing facilitator, helping you to unlock the writer within.
So much. Thank you so much, Carol Ann. So our topic today is how to be creative by combining thinking, knowledge, and break the limits of imagination. Over to you, Amanda. Would you like to explain the topic to our audience, please?
Well, I love that you picked this topic because when I did my master's, I started my master's in education technology, and I thought that technology was going to be my entire focus of my master's in education, and that I would focus on like the latest and greatest technologies and how I would implement those in the classroom. And then the focus of my research completely changed, and it turned into how can we utilize our own creativity and then utilize those technologies, because technology is constantly changing. And what it became the focus of my research was how we can then empower ourselves through the technology with our own creativity. And there are so many ways that we have now with technology that allow us to be creative on a global scale in a capacity that never has before we've been able to do as a race, as humans, right? And so we have the power to connect to each other through our creativity. But the problem is that so many of us are passive consumers of technology instead of actually active producers of technology. And that's the thing that I hope to inspire in people is, instead of spending all of your time being a passive consumer of technology, because that's the same as just watching TV 20 years ago, you're just being a passive consumer. Whereas now we have the technology and tools to reach a global audience and be a active producer of content, and that's on a scale that we've never in the world seen before.
So much. Thank you so much, Amanda. Over to you, Carol Ann, please.
Yeah, I think what Amanda's saying is true there. You know, there is so much ways that we can be creative, and that things are being created on a global scale and in ways that we never dreamt of. But I think when I saw this title about how to be creative by combining thinking, knowledge. The limits of our imagination are actually our own thinking. It's where we stop ourselves. Our ability to imagine is limitless, and it is through imagination that things get created. It is through people allowing their mind, their imagination to wander, that things go into different worlds. But sometimes we don't allow ourselves. We go, oh no, that's not possible, or that's too bizarre, or that, and that's where we then limit ourselves. And usually before anything actually comes into existence, it's actually someone's creation in their own mind. It's born in their imagination, and then it becomes a reality. And I've always loved the quote. I think it's Einstein. If if your mind can conceive it and your heart can believe it, you will achieve it. So it is that whole connection, and allowing creativity to be limitless. So just exploring this, I think I'm interested and intrigued to see where we go. Again, another topic to explore. It's great.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Carol Ann. I basically agree with you that basically if you use your imagination and your creativity, and then use your knowledge as well, you can and believe what you are doing, and then if you conceive it, then that means you believe it. Then there's something that will come out of it. And even Amanda, you talk about technology, that we can use the technology in so many ways, that we can actually be creative rather than distracting our imagination, being destructive in our own imagination. So we can actually be creative and create something like out of it. Like here's coronavirus. Behind the scenes, some people are complaining, whining behind the scene. Some people, businesses are being born, people are being creative. So I think it's basically you have to prepare and do your analytics and everything, and live with it. Like Carol Ann, you were saying that if you conceive it, you believe it, and live with it, and using your imagination and just build something out of it. I was reading, I spoke about it yesterday, that I was reading Peter Sage. I was watching his webinar, Peter Sage. I don't know if you guys know anything about him yesterday. And he says people are very, very creative. But nowadays, if you go on social media, people are talking about the same thing. No one is getting creative anymore. It's like some people have written a book, and you hear the same message. It's like someone has removed the cover and put their own cover in that same book. But I was saying, but if you can use your knowledge, use your imagination, and just get creative and create your own things, imagine what you can produce. So that's why I decided to choose this topic, that, I need to get creative with my own things, and which is what I'm doing. I'm in the process of basically getting creative with my life. Over to you, Amanda.
I think sometimes that people narrow the focus of creativity, and that they think that creativity is only like art and painting and drawing. And that's something that I think we need to switch our mindset on, because one time I had a parent teacher meeting. Sorry, my cat. And they said, I was talking about creativity, and the dad said, well, my daughter's not creative. And I said, yes, she is. And I will never forget that meeting. It was like 10 years ago. And I was like, everyone has their own unique creative capacities. She may not love to draw or paint, but she is definitely creative. She can be a creative writer. She can be creative in coding. She can be creative in building different things. There's so many different ways, coding in robotics. There's so many different ways that people can be creative that sometimes we don't think we're creative because we may not be creative in the like arts of what people tend to think as the creative people out there, right? When you think of a creative person, you think like, oh, somebody who paints, or somebody who designs jewelry, or somebody who acts. But really, creativity is so much more than that. Creativity is people who see through things through innovation, like Steve Jobs, who developed Apple and and so many, and our iPhones and everything. That is an immense amount of creativity, and creativity just looks different in different areas. And I think sometimes even like welders can be super creative and innovative in their area of expertise. Same with engineers. Engineers are extremely creative. They just don't think of themselves as creative sometimes. And I think that's something that we need to break through with people, and especially with children, is to let them know that they are creative, and that it may not be the specific way that other people show their creativity, but everybody has their own unique creative capacities. And so when we want to share that with the world, where the technology can allow us to do that. And the other thing that I think is so amazing about technology and creativity is that it allows us to learn, and it allows us to learn how to get our ideas out to the world. And so for me, that's been through learning how to build websites, and then learning how to write and illustrate, and then self-publish books on Amazon as an indie author. And so without the technology, I couldn't get my creativity out to the world in the same way that we can now at this unique time in human history, which is so empowering. But sometimes I think people put their creative things to the side and just become passive consumers of technology and of the things around them, because they're scared to step outside that box and show their unique creative capacities that they have within them, because that may not have been valued in their past, their creative, what they are creative in. So maybe in school, there's Dr. Ken Robinson talks about how schools kill creativity, and really, he's right in lots of ways. There is a whole bunch of research on how schools can, and the ways the school system is, can squash people's creativity, but yet at the same time, there are huge ways to empower people through creativity, and to make them understand that they are so creative through our school system as well. And so even though I've read lots of Sir Ken Robinson's books on education and on creativity, I agree with him on some points that schools can kill creativity, but I also disagree with him, because I think that schools can also empower people into believing in themselves and believing in their creative abilities. But it's our old system and our curriculum, and sticking to that, like checking the boxes off curriculum, that restricts teachers in allowing kids to empower themselves through their creativity.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Over to you, Carol Ann, please.
Yeah. Just pick up there what Amanda was saying about schools killing creativity, and I experienced this with my eldest granddaughter. I never forget when she was younger. She used to be in, have her bath, and I'd sit beside her, and we'd play this really imaginative game, where we'd be writing on her hand, and and she'd pretend to read it, and then she'd do something, and I'd pretend to read it, and we used to have fun. She started school, and after a while, she didn't. That went. She didn't know how to do it. And I just remember thinking, wow, all that imagination and that creativity, it just got lost. I used to bring it back and we'd spend a bit of time and then it would come back again. But I was really aware that something had curbed her imagination, you know. And there's something I read this morning. It says, knowledge helps us play by the rules. Imagination helps us break through them. And as we've been talking, my thoughts went back to when I used to teach. And I used to teach maths. And we used to give students projects to do or investigations. They brought in this idea of giving them investigations to do, because they seemed to think that it would help the less able to get higher marks. What I found was that actually that creative thinking, that what if thinking wasn't there. And even some of the most able weren't able to allow their imagination to go, well, what if I did this? And what if I did that? And explore the whole thing and actually get some different results. They were very stuck in what they were doing and very limited in the way they were explaining what they were doing. They weren't open to actually saying, well, I've decided to do this because, and explore it and go down a route that maybe took them to a dead end and then come back again. It was like, I have to get this right first time. I can't go down there just in case, you know? And I used to enjoy doing investigations and taking them off in different directions. And I used to, my ex-husband used to think I was potty. I would take them on holiday with me. He said, but we're on holiday. You're not working now. I said, but this isn't work for me. I'd take some pen and paper, I'd take an investigation, and I'd be drawing and writing and seeing what, you know, ways I could go and what formula I could get out of it that would show it. And to me, it was a puzzle, and I love puzzles, you know, and I really enjoyed it. So, how can we just let or foster this creative thought, this just go down a route and be given the time to explore it and see where it goes. And if you come to a dead end, you come to a dead end. And be able to say, okay, well, I did this and this and this, but it only got me here. What if I now do this? And that's really what needs to be fostered. And that's where I think imagination gets killed, because there is these sort of rules and you've got to learn this now or you'll never learn it, which we all know isn't the truth, because you can learn at any age. But I think that actually comes back to, because when I think of my dad and my mum, but even more so my dad, they lost out on a lot of schooling. My mum lost a lot of schooling because of the war. My dad lost out some schooling because he was ill. And then when he went to work, then there was the war, and then he went to work, and you didn't get day release in those days. He went to what was called night school, but he still had to work during the daytime. He didn't get any time off to study. And so for him, it was this, you know, if you need to do it at the time you're at school, because it gets harder later on, especially when you're working. Well, that's not the truth now either, because there are other ways of being able to learn and weave in with your work, and you get time off. And I mean, I had day release from my job to get my maths degree. You know, I was really lucky. And so, yeah, the whole thing is opening up. And I think this whole time is about, it's telling us to wake up, telling us to stop and look and allow our creative imagination to show us other possibilities. because yeah, there's so many other businesses that have popped up out of this. And as I said before, my two grandchildren in particular, 22-year-old granddaughter who lost her job last year, set up her own online business with jewelry. She's got another job now, but she's still got her own jewelry business. A 16-year-old granddaughter last year set up, she started baking. She now has her own cake company, and it's thriving. You know, she's doing really well with it, and she's so glad now that she's finished school. You know, it's like she was in year 11. She's going to go to college in September, and there's things she wants to do. But yeah, she's enjoying buying her own things because she just got creative, and it's taught her a lot. She's even saying herself now, through dealing with people, it's helped her to become more confident. It's helping her to deal with money, and yeah, just find different ways of solving problems, because she's had a few problems that have shown up when she's had things not work out, or something hasn't gone quite right with a cake, or you know, and oh God, what am I going to do? Well, it's sitting in, not giving up. It's sitting in, how can I make this work? In what way can I make this work? You know, all of that, and it is getting creative. So yeah, let's try and see about fostering that imagination more.
Thank you, Carol Ann. I think it's very, very important to use our imagination, and like you were saying about your mom. And my mom, she's very, very creative. She's a fashion designer. Basically, she loves drawing. Basically, she draws. She'll look at your body and just keep drawing and drawing and drawing. Or if she sees a dress in town, if somebody likes it, she'll just go home and use the imagination and draw it. Basically, that is a talent. And you talk about, it's good to explore as well. If you are somebody that like to explore things, I think it does change your life, because if you know what you need and what you need to change, and you are exploring things around you, so then that means that you're also willing to work. You have to be willing to work. If you are just somebody who is creative, not wanting to do the hard work, then that creativity becomes a procrastination. So, but if you are willing to do the hard work, and basically for me, like, I'm in the process of identifying and removing my obstacles that are standing in my way when it comes to my business, and the limit as well, breaking it. Amanda, you spoke about breaking the limitation, and Carol Ann as well, you spoke about breaking the limitation. So I need to break the things that are limiting me and lead from within. Like when we talk to Ngozi Talk Show, we say find your own voice, lead from within. So those are the things that I feel I need to look at it. And when you are being creative, it means you are able to see things, or like use technology, or use your hand, use your imagination, and then create something out of it. And also, if you are willing to look at your weaknesses as well, and ask people that know you very well, what are you good at? What do they think that you are good at? Because sometimes if you remove your lens, sometimes when you are in that cycle, you don't see, but somebody else can see things that you don't see. And sometimes you can chat to people. There's times where I chat to people, and sometimes I end up talking, they're like, why don't you do this for work? I'm like, I'm just creative, and I love being creative and living it that way, but it's not something that I love. Like Carol Ann, you talk about, that was Amanda talking about children being creative at school in so many ways. had parents that go to children's activities. I hear parents say, my child is not good at that. So I'm like, how do you know? And they're like, but that is my child. I know my child. I'm like, no, you don't. Because the creativity, the knowledge, everything, it comes from within. Is that, are you able to bring out the best out of your child and believe in them? I remember we were talking with one of the parents, and she was like, my daughter wants to do this dance, but I don't think she's good at it. So I was like, what? How do you know? Why don't you just let it take the dance and pick the dance? We were going to the competition, and she was like, I don't think she should be good at it. And I was like, she's your child, but do you know what she's capable of? And they were like, because as parents, we seem to think we know our children. But if we let people say they know us, do we accept that? Because everything, there's something within us that can be brought out for us to be creative, for us to do the unthinkable, basically. Everybody's capable of doing anything as long as they are willing to do the work. So what happened is she let her daughter enter the competition, went and learned the dance. She listened, and her daughter came out with a trophy and came first. Basically, because we think we know everything. Like myself, I always tell people, although I have my children, but I don't know what they are capable of unless I let them try it. So I let them try it. In the house, we have rules that we can go and try things. If you like what you are trying and it goes up to 1 year, that's fine. I am not pulling out. I'm not wasting money and keep pulling out and keep pulling out. You have to build what you have started, so they know that if they start music, they start this, they have to build on that, because the children will say, oh, my friend is no longer in my class, so that means I'm out as well. So I don't allow them to do that, so they know. So I refuse for my daughter now. She's 14. Her music is part of her strength. She's really, really good with music. One day we went to school and all her teachers were like, she's awesome with music. And she was like, I have to thank my mom for helping me not to stop, because she wanted to stop. And I was like, okay, I'm listening. If you tell me good reason why you want to stop, then you are stopping. But if there is no good reason, it's just based on friends, no, you are not stopping. So she was like, because my friend is not in this class. So I was like, okay, friends come and go, so we can move on to another subject. So I teach them to be creative, and when they are creative, and work on their talent, because if you are somebody who's creative, you have to build on that talent. Amanda, you work with children. You know, children are very, very talented. Sometimes they need that support for them to build that talent. So that's what I do with myself and with my children. Or even if I'm stuck, I'm not afraid to ask people to say, okay, I'm doing this, but I'm stuck. Can you help? And somebody will come up and say, oh yeah, why don't you do this? So that's being creative, and also acknowledging my weaknesses and my strength, and for me to be able to get to where I need to go. I need to find out if I have any questions to ask you guys for the audience. So how do you break? This is a very, very good questions, guys, which I am asking on behalf of the audience, because the audience will be like, yes, I'm creative, but the limitations. How do you break through self-imposed limitations?
I think sometimes it's that procrastination thing, and how do you break through procrastination? And I actually was just thinking about this yesterday, because I've been writing an article for Brainsy magazine once a month, and sometimes I just need that deadline of like, it's the end of the month. Otherwise, I don't sit down and actually do it. And so I think sometimes procrastination can be our own worst enemy, because I know for me that if I didn't have a deadline of when something was due, I would procrastinate and not get it done. And so sometimes being accountable to somebody else. So even if you want to start a creative task or a creative venture, then find somebody that you can be accountable for to actually make sure you do go through with it. So if your 3 goals are to reach out to 4 prospects this week, then you need somebody to make sure that you're accountable to do that. I know even for myself, if I try to go to the gym and I don't, especially in the mornings, if I would try to go to the gym in the morning before work, if I was meeting a friend, I would always make sure I got there. If I was just going by myself, I would turn the alarm off and go back to sleep almost every single time. Because I could talk myself, I'll go after work instead. This is too early in the morning. But if I had someone that I had to be accountable to, I would make sure that I got there. And the same thing needs to happen with your creativity. Is if you are a procrastinator like me, you need to either set a deadline for yourself or get somebody that you need to be accountable to help you make those goals and those deadlines. And sometimes deadlines come and you don't get them done in time, or your self-imposed deadlines don't come, and you have to be gentle with yourself and mindful with yourself. But then it's like, okay, I need to get back on track. And I find that with me a lot, because my full-time job is teaching. I'm a single mom, and then I write and illustrate children's books, and then I talk on this talk show, and then I also write for a magazine. And so I get pulled in all these different directions. And one of the things that I find myself doing is I'll stop drawing, or I'll stop painting. And like you can see, like I painted the painting behind me, but then I need to bring myself back to those creative things, because when I am doing something creative, that's when I feel most calm and most centered and most inside my body and most mindful. And so when you find something that you truly love to be creative at, that's when your mindfulness practice will grow immensely as well. And that's why my business is called Art, Mindfulness, and Creativity, is because when you start to become mindful of how empowered and calm and just centered you feel when you are doing something that is your unique creative outlet, then you will feel all of those anxious feelings and all of those stressors will wash away from your body, and you will feel so much more centered. And I've taught lots of art workshops with parents and with also with kids, and it is so amazing how calm and quiet the classroom gets, or how calm and quiet the room gets when people start focusing on whatever they're doing they're being creative in. It's like this calming silence throughout the room, and it is such an amazing sensation to just watch people just be like, oh, and start creating. So I think that's one of the things that gets me over my barriers, is having somebody to be accountable for, or setting deadlines for myself as well. So those would be my 2 to overcome that.
Thank you so much. Carol Ann, do you have any comment?
Yeah, I think accountability buddy is a good one, to hold you to account, and so you can share and say, well, I said I'd do this, but I haven't. And it's being able to acknowledge what you said you were going to do, but maybe you haven't completed it, and then put in place, well, I will now do this, or complete it by, and give another deadline, rather than it just meandering on, and time goes by, and then you either forget about it or it doesn't get done. So that is a great way of getting you to push through those barriers. But the limiting, self-imposed limitations usually come from a limiting belief. It's a belief that you have about yourself. And so I would go to looking at, well, what is that limiting belief? What is it I'm saying to myself at that deeper level that's actually stopping me? What is it I believe about myself or believe about my ability? And really listen to what you're saying, because that there is what's holding you back. And very often, those limiting beliefs, those thoughts are there all the time and we don't really hear them. It's a bit like, it's an analogy I used this morning, and you know, if somebody's got like a mainline train line at the bottom of their garden, and you go and visit them for the first time, and then you're going, oh my goodness, what's that? How on earth could you live near this? You know, all that noise all the time. And they're going, what are you talking about? I don't hear it. They've gotten used to it. And that's how we get used to those limiting beliefs, those stories that we're telling ourselves. So it's about catching them, becoming aware of them, and then do something about that to actually transform it. And so you can then let them go. And there is timeline therapy is a great one to transform limiting beliefs or limiting decisions, because actually a belief only came about because of a decision that you made, and then it became a belief. So it's going back to that very first time and clearing that, such that everything else then just clears the way. So that is a really great process to do, is the timeline therapy. But yeah, catch those thoughts, hear them, you know, and also sometimes it's more a feeling. You might not, the words aren't there, but it's a feeling in your body that are holding back. There's that heaviness, this, oh, I can't do this right now. I'll put it off. Stop right there and go, if this feeling were words and a belief, what might it be saying? And find what that is. Give it words. Because then once you've acknowledged it, you can then do something about it. So it's just going deeper.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Carol Ann. I actually agree with you and Amanda as well. Finding an accountability partner, buddy, is very, very important to actually work on your limiting beliefs, because that person can actually, because when you are doing things on your own, basically it doesn't work. We are not strong or resilient when we do things alone. It depends with what kind of things you are trying to achieve that moment. But if you are really trying to achieve good results, you have to find the accountability buddy. I normally go to that website. Is it Fiverr.com or yeah?
Oh, Fiverr.
Yeah, I normally go there, and like when I started my Instagram, I'll go there and ask somebody and pay them and ask them to evaluate my account. When they evaluate my account, they will write down the things that I need to improve instead of them doing it for me. So I'll say, okay, I'll go and do it. So I'll go and do it and then come back and ask them to go and check again if it's done. So instead of me paying that person to do it, so I'll just say, can you please go and evaluate my Instagram account? Or although I have Des as my business coach, he does check my social media to make sure that I don't post things that I shouldn't be posting on my business account. But I also pay somebody else to say, can you go and check? And that person, because I paid them, they're not going to lie to me. And that's why my Instagram is really, really good, because I just do it myself, but I have to pay someone to say, go and evaluate it. What do I need to change? What is there anything else that I need to do? And they'll write down everything and say you need to improve this, you need to improve this. But when they are checking the account, they ask for password. If there is anything that needs like keywords, they need to do it, they just do it. They say, I've done this for you, so I need you to go back into the account and do this. And when you post, do this, do this. So that is that. That's why my Instagram is really good. I get somebody else to evaluate. Even LinkedIn, I get somebody to I've got LinkedIn is good, and Instagram, I get somebody, I have a guy that goes and evaluates everything. And then when it comes back, he'll say, no, sir, I've sorted this out. This is what you need to sort out. They can easily sort it out, but in that way, it's me learning to do things, because some of it is little things. So I'm learning to do things, and in my mind as well, I'm holding myself accountable that getting things done. So that's how I manage my social media, that they teach me like, do this, or you need a half an hour. You don't need to pay £800 for somebody to manage your social media. They're like, get up in the morning before 30 minutes before your time and just do what you need to do with social media. You're done, and then just get on with the day. So that's how I do it. And now I need accountability for, I'm going to have to find somebody in the group. I need somebody who is tough. Basically, there are a few things that I need to work on based on Mgosi Talk Show and Hope Springs, the Tenant Introduction Agency, and even my inner self as well. There's some things that I need to work on. So I need accountability, but I don't need people I've worked with before. So I need somebody that I have not worked with them before, so they can hold me accountable. I'm basically trying to work out how the mind works, the pieces of the mind, how do they work? So that's what I'm trying to work, and how can I use my imagination to, I've worked out to be authentic. Like, I'm no longer wearing makeup anymore. I need to be authentic myself. And so I need basically to work on myself within, so I can be creative and actually not being seen as somebody who has taken somebody else's cover on social media and put my own. So I've took whatever Peter said, just said on the webinar, and I'm going to put that into practice and create my own. And I think he is right, because I go to people and I watch their webinars, and then I will see somebody else is doing the same thing. They've copied them, they're doing the same thing. So I just feel he's actually right, because he worked with Tony Robbins for many, many years, but he's nothing like Tony Robbins. He's basically has his own content. He does his own things. It's just amazing, because normally the people that worked with the other coaches, you can identify them by the way they speak, the way but he's completely different. So I liked it. I liked him. I was like, I like you. So I'm gonna do that. So if anyone wants to hold me accountable, you can text me and tell me, why do you think you can be tough? I need somebody who's tough as well. Why do you think you can be tough with me? So I'm ready to listen. So that is my situation so far. So I'm putting it out there. I put it out there with Kamau and John yesterday. So if anyone wants to say, no, listen, I want to hold you accountable each and every day, because basically, for me I need to have a good support for me to get to where I need to go. Though I have a business coach, I need to have another support, somebody that can hold me accountable each day, or other day, or every week. And also I'm working on my focus as well. I need to work on my focusing, stay focused. It is a big problem. I've seen sometimes you start something and you stop, you want to start something else. So I need somebody that can help me to focus on one thing. 2 or 3 things that are connected together. I've worked on it, but I don't think I'm there yet. I'm happy to admit my weaknesses. So So that's that. Amanda, do you have anything to say?
I think sometimes we're our own worst enemy with our creative endeavors. And that it's true that we need sometimes somebody just to give us a little push. And sometimes you're totally in that creative space where you are just focused and working and doing your thing, and then something happens or something comes up and you get off track. And so for me, lots of the time, like I'll be so on track, and this can happen even with like exercise. I'll be working out a ton, and then I'll get sick or I'll get a cold or something, and then I'm just like, that whole routine goes. And then it's like 2 or 3 months later, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get back on track again. And I get back on track with my creativity or with my working out, like whichever endeavor that you're doing, right? And that can happen in so many different areas. It can be happen when you're trying to practice the piano too, or something like that, where sometimes you're so focused and doing the work and have your daily routine, and then something happens and it just throws your routine out the window. And so I think sometimes you just need to get back on track, and find a way for us to get back on track. And so I like how you said that you get up every morning half an hour early and do all of your Instagram stuff. That's one of my goals, is to start doing that sort of thing daily, but I keep not doing it. And so I need more people in my life to push me into being like, okay, I can do this too. I can get up early, or stay up later is probably my better option. And I think that too, we need to look for inspiration from others as well. Like you were saying that you had people, different coaches, you can tell who they've been coached through, but I think everybody puts their own unique spin on so many different things, and so many different ideas and creative endeavors have come from getting an idea from somewhere else and then improving it, right? So innovation is not necessarily coming up with something completely out of the blue. It's coming up with something that is unique enough that it's different from other people's, but also and it changes things, something enough that it allows you to have that inspiration from somebody else, but also create your own things. So like vehicles all the time are being creatively adjusted from different ideas. Like the smartphone has been adjusted into our cars now, and it's such a creative thing to think like that for vehicles even. And we don't necessarily think of creativity as things like our cars, whereas that is a huge creative industry as well. And they're always, every year, they're tweaking and updating things and taking ideas from other places so that they can continue to improve, right? And so if you think about like 10 years ago, there were no smartphone technologies the way that they are today in the new cars. And so I think sometimes we need to look even outside of our own area of creativity to get ideas from different areas. And so I know when I was doing my master's degree, I watched this one TED Talk, and it's still, I did my master's degree like 6 or 7 years ago, and this video still pops into my head, this TED Talk about how this village in Africa used a smartphone to learn how to turn a garbage dump into a beautiful, productive, a vegetable producing garden. And it was a community garden, and I thought, wow, that is the power of technology and creativity being combined together, is you are able to learn so much through technology, but then also adapt it to your own unique situation. And I think that's something that we have this unbelievable power at our fingertips to be creative with whatever our situation is. So those people in Africa who had a smartphone and were able to research on the internet how to turn a garbage dump into a sustainable community garden, that was what their creative endeavor was being able to take something that was not working for them and turn it into something that could be so great for the community. And so I think sometimes we need to look at it as that as well, as what can we do to just shift our thinking and use the power of technology to learn, right? If you are a super amazing artist and nobody knows your work, then you have to find somebody who's good at social media so that you can get your art out to the world. And so even though we may be creative, sometimes we may take a few steps back because we don't know those outlets to get our work out to the world either. And that's sometimes something that I think can block people, and they're like, oh, nobody's looking at my work. Well, maybe you just need to look at it from a different approach, or get somebody in that's an expert in that area of marketing to get your work out there. Because I think so many times, so many people start a creative endeavor and then stop and don't continue. And that's one thing, is that perseverance. And I think that's one thing that few people do. So many people start things, but then they don't continue to persevere through and keep trying. And I think that's something that sometimes we can get discouraged by if things don't work out the way we want them to instantaneously when we start a creative endeavor. Creative endeavors are constantly try something, learn a little bit, tweak it. Try something, learn a little bit, tweak it. Try something, learn a little bit, tweak it, and continuously learning is, I think, something that we sometimes don't think about when we're being creative, is you also have to be continuously learning at the same time.
Just what you were saying there, Amanda, that learn about it, tweak it, and learn about it, tweak it. It comes down to, relates back to what I was saying earlier about being prepared to go down an avenue, explore it, see where it's at, and tweak it and go somewhere else, or backtrack and say, well, no, that didn't work. What else can I use? And it is about constantly learning. And there was a quote that I saw this morning. It's by Muhammad Ali, which I think is absolutely gorgeous. And it's, the man who has no imagination has no wings. You know, if you've got imagination, you can fly. It's like, wow, I just love that. It just take you anywhere. But as you were saying, Namsa, about having focus, you know, it's like, well, what's distracting you at the moment? What's going on? What's being a bit chaotic? And I had to sort of turn my video off a few times and go out because there's some chaos going on outside, and just getting distracted. But there was this tiny little bird got indoors, and they're trying to get it out, but it was creating mayhem. So it was allowing that to just take place, but hold the space and be here. And it's about, as I keep saying, not making anything wrong. But I could feel myself getting angry, thinking, I'm making it all wrong. And I just bring it back to what's important here right now, and come right back to the moment. And it is about being in the moment and not in your head or not elsewhere. Being in the moment and just allowing something to take wings, your imagination to grow wings and to be able to fly. And very often, like with your business, people seem to think they can't visualize. You know, they're told, well, you need to have a vision, but they say, I can't see anything. I can't see. I can't visualize. But as I said before, you've got other modalities. It's like, well, what is it you're hearing about your business? That's a vision in itself. It's not visual, but it's auditory. So what are you hearing you say about your business? What are other people saying about your business? Get creative. You know, let your imagination or your thinking grow wings and fly and hear words. What are you feeling? You know, and allow those feelings to grow and expand. But one thing that I come back to, because it's the one thing I now do, having moved from being a maths teacher to finding that writer within and unlocking the writer within, is actually getting your book written, getting your story written. And, you know, Amanda's written books and things that she can use, and they support what she does with her teaching, but it's another string to her bow. But, you know, if you've got a business, your book can actually support your business. But so many people think, oh, I can't write a book. Well, where's your imagination? What if you could write a book? What if you knew that inside you was this book, this message, and that actually it can come out? You have got the ability to write and to bring it out. What if? And it's about playing with what if, rather than going, oh, no. There immediately is that limiting belief. Catch it and go, whoa, what if? Twist it around. So let's get this book written. Nomsa, you have a book? I can't hear you.
No, I have not written a book, not yet.
Not yet. Is there one in the pipeline? The thought?
Yes.
Of one? Yes.
I've had Tony Robbins. I attended one of his events. He was like, writing a book, it can be a nightmare, but it can be fun. So make sure that at the time I was starting my own business. So I didn't want to pull myself there. I like to focus. So, but I write down. The good thing is I write down everything. So when I'm writing my book, I'll just transfer whatever I've written to the book. So there will be a book published one day.
And actually writing a book is a healing journey in itself. It's a self-discovery journey. And you can, it helps you to do that inner work through writing a book.
That's 100% true.
And that's what I found.
Yeah.
So what I'm imagining, because I'm hearing, you know, quite a few people say, well, I need to focus on the business. I can't write a book at the same time. Where did that belief come from? That's a limiting belief. And I'm about let's have some creativity here. How could you create it and dovetail the two together? Running your business and writing a book at the same time. Who says it's not possible? So that's what my challenge to the world is, and what I'm sort of working with, you know. And also for myself, it's this. I'm very aware that there is something within me that is saying that, because that's what I'm hearing from others. So I'm going in and looking at that for myself and working on that, so that I can then bring it out to the world. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Carol. And I will write a book, don't you worry. And over to you, Amanda. Any words of encouragement? I know you've got to go to work. Any words of encouragement?
I think that if you are like, well, I'm not creative, and even though you listen to us and you're saying I still not creative, I don't know what my unique creative endeavor is, and I would say sit with yourself and think about what you loved to do as a child. What's something you could do for hours and hours and hours when you were a kid? And I think that will allow you to then find something. And for me, for a long time, I didn't know what mine was. I was always creative, and I always was able to draw and paint and everything, but I didn't really feel like I was empowered by my creativity until probably my late 30s. And so I think that sometimes we fall as life takes us in different directions. We drift away from our creativity, and then we can come back to it. And if you forget what it is, try to sit with yourself and figure out what it was that you really loved to do when you were a child. And maybe it was building, maybe it was working with wood, maybe it was designing things, and you just never know what it could be. But I truly believe that, or maybe it's coding. Maybe it's coding on the computer, or doing technology things, or making YouTube videos. There's so many different ways to be creative. So don't be discouraged if you can't paint or draw, or those are the things that you like think of are the only ways to be creative because of schooling, because creativity is in everything. And it's everywhere. It's in branding, it's in marketing, it's in our computers, it's in our cars, it's everywhere you look. And we are constantly innovating and constantly being creative. So you need to just open yourself up to it.
Carol-Ann, thank you so much, Amanda. Words of encouragement, Carol-Ann.
Yeah, just I love this quote by Lewis Carroll. Imagination is the only weapon in the war against reality. Whatever appears to be real for you, what is your reality? Give your imagination wings, because that's what will help you move beyond where you feel stuck. Imagine. And isn't there a song, Imagine?
Yeah, I used to love that song.
Yeah. So just imagine and write it, draw it, paint it, act it out even, speak it out, and create a vision board. Find pictures, find words. A vision board doesn't just have to be pictures, it can be words as well, and just put that there and just look at it and have faith in and trust in the universe that, and it's coming back to trust the process and know that actually the universe has your back. And if you can imagine it and if your mind can conceive it and your heart can believe it, you will achieve it. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Carol-Ann and Amanda. I was reading this book. It says, like Carol-Ann, you're saying, it says you have to conceive, like you say, conceive, it must be conceived. This goal or target must be conceived as already in existence when you are creating something. So it's exactly what you are saying. I was reading this book, so apparently I have to read it every day for 21 days. That's why I need someone to hold me accountable. So yeah, I need to read this chapter for 20 days. For 21 days. So basically, and it says, don't force it. Some people get creative and they use their imagination, they conceive the idea, and then they want to force it to happen now. It says, don't force whatever you are doing. Don't stress, don't force it. Just let it flow, let it happen. Take action, but don't force it. Just let it flow through, because the universe is listening. So the universe knows it's preparing, and just keep taking action and don't force things to happen now. So as long as you've conceived the idea and you feel that idea is already exists. So don't interfere with your success. So it says the mistakes that people make is when you build the idea and you get creative and the idea is conceived, then you interfere with it. So just let it flow through. So that is the advice that I'm gonna give you guys. Let it flow through. So thank you so much for everyone who is watching Ghosty Talk Show. We are here Monday to Friday, 1 p.m. UK time. So if you want to connect with the speakers or if you come to the talk, please just communicate with us. We love to communicate with you. And God bless you and live with grace, everyone.